There are 2 points at play here. We go about our way, trying day in and day out. There are ideas that perhaps for other people it's easier or it's more difficult, but we go about trying nonetheless. The challenges we face, they practically force us to go about trying. However, there are still mistakes along the way, and it seems a very common source of these mistakes, of these problems, is a certain lack of understanding regarding these two factors. The first one is that we look at life, trying to evaluate, trying to understand, but it seems like we forget that life is not a picture on a wall. Or, well, it can be a picture on a wall, but you can't stand and look at it because you are a part of the picture. Your presence makes a difference to the picture. You can influence it, and you are influenced by it. So don't think of life as something at a distance. Don't think of people as something at a distance. It's not that life is like this and you are trying your own thing. It's not that people are like this and you are living your own life. You're part of that picture. Both the general quality of it and the immediate status of it. So account for yourself as a full part of the picture, and account for the picture as being fully connected to you. Your power may be limited, but you are not separate from it. And then deriving from this first point is the second factor, which is the limit in perspective that we have over things. It's simple, it's straightforward. When you consider another person's actions, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Natural flow of things is that it should be the consequences, the effects of their actions. This is natural because that's what you receive. You don't receive what they were trying to do, you receive what they actually did and the effect it had on the environment that you are part of. On the other hand, when you consider your own actions, your own past and all of that, the natural flow is that the first thing that comes to mind are your motivations, your reasons behind each action. You probably aren't even too aware of the consequences in front of each action. This is the limit to perspective. Something that comes from within you, you are doing. The important part was the reason why you did it. What you are trying to achieve, what problem you are trying to solve, and so on. Why you did it. Therefore, there is a bias in your ability to judge. Particularly others. I was gonna say other people, but honestly even animals. We really can't even judge animals. On one side, all you see is the output. On the other side, most of what you see is the input, the reason why. So you can't do much of a fair judgment between you and the world, even if you were separate from it. Because you don't, these two, consequences and motivations, are the major parts. There may be one or two more, but they're some of the major parts of any occurrence, any action undertaken. But for each side, you can only see one, for the most part. If someone says, I did something and this was the reason, you don't know. You've got no power to confirm. If someone says you did something and these were the consequences, it's a bit easier to investigate, I suppose, consequences being physical. But even then, you may not fully know the full extent of the consequences. Our perspective is limited, thusly. So, to judge accurately at least, it's an almost impossible endeavor. At least to judge between people. Especially to judge between yourself and someone else. You don't know what's in their heart, don't know the full consequences of something outside of you. This firstly means you're missing a major piece of the puzzle. That's a big part of the judgment. This secondly means there is a bias in your judgment. Naturally, you will be sympathetic with your own reasons. And being mortal, never mind when the consequences of someone else's actions are destructive to you and your motivations, but being mortal, where someone's action can leave a fatal wound that puts an end to your story, you should be naturally very critical of someone else's actions. So there's this heavy bias that we have, and it comes naturally. And for all the survival value that it has, it does mean that when it comes to judging, especially people, we are severely lacking. So we are part of a picture, but our power is limited. We want to understand the picture, but our perspective is limited. Power, understanding, these are subjectivity and objectivity. These are major parts of life, of living life, being able to properly live life, exercise your will, be certain that your will is overall good, and yet we're missing these big pieces, or at least we're not perfect with them. Yeah, we're far closer to just missing them, really. What then can someone do? Well, without going too hard into scripture, it's really just to do your best. This is inevitably tied to religion. It's why he in the giving of the worldwide law says he will judge people according to specific actions. Doesn't say you should go around judging people, judging each other. He will do the judgment, you just watch your step. And in that law, the commands given are strictly tied to you as an individual. Barely talks about community, barely talks about things outside of you. It's just you and your actions. He will do the judging. You focus on your steps. Then you get to the big law, and in that one you read through it, and there judgment, at least trialing of people, comes into play. That one is extremely detailed, dealing with almost each and every little situation that can occur. How to get through it. At times, court case, trialing, judging a person is required. But you go through the judgments, the process of judgment that's given. You're not judging the person, you're judging their actions. You're judging their actions and the effect of their actions on the community. Is it a threat? Is it a beneficial thing? Not the person, the actions. So it seems clear then that this limitation we've got in our ability to judge, this limitation of capacity, is acknowledged and accounted for. Nonetheless, what can a person do? I speak of these limitations, but specifically in this context, something comes up which moves in the opposite direction. You don't know what's in the other person's heart. You don't know the full extent of the consequences of your actions. But one thing you can check upon, and practically no one else can, besides the Holy One, it's your motivations, it's your sincerity. You could be coming out of jail for a murderer and all of that. Logically, no one should trust you. The threat that you present, that you've realized before, it's just too much. But one thing you can be certain of is your own motivations. You know what's in your own heart. And indeed, the closest thing I can find to an answer to this conundrum of limitations is that you can at least be certain of what's in your own heart. You can proceed with sincerity. Such that if your record is brought up by heaven, and in there are blotches and blotches and blotches of sin, when the first line reads, "On this day you did something that led to someone's death," that's a murder charge. You can respond, not having the power to perfectly control every consequence of my actions, not having the understanding to check up on what other people's motivations would have been and therefore what directions they would have taken under specific circumstances. some of which include the effects induced by my actions. I was acting with a clean intent to do good, not harm. This was the motivation in my heart. The destruction that may have come from my action, it came in a position or a place that was outside of my control. That seems to be the closest thing to a good answer that you can give. That from your own side, your intentions were clean. What more can they be? Without the power to be certain of every consequence, without the understanding to be certain of every person's alignment, you can only act to the best of your ability based on what you are aware of. Again, without going too much into scripture. Bringing in scripture, align with the Lord, He'll take care of the rest. You lack so much, bring in a superior power that doesn't lack. People can doubt you from start to finish. And it can be very reasonable to doubt you. Simply being mortal is reason to doubt. To be doubted. You can be extremely weak in terms of power. But you can always check up on and be sure of your own sincerity. And you can always work with the resources that are immediately before you, available for you to control. We are limited in our capacity. We are not totally without any. And we've got practically maximum capacity when it comes to our own sincerity. So the answer then, at least to me, seems to be that one can simply do their best, expecting that it will not be perfect. But what more than the actual maximum of your own capacity can you apply? This seems to be the most reasonable position and the answer to such a conundrum. Can't do everything, can't know everything, but you can check your own steps and just do your best. Do your best. What little good is achieved is a little bit more good than was in the world before you came in. There. A justification for your life, perhaps.